Your screenplay's stakes aren't high enough.
I'm all in.
If you've been writing scripts for any length of time, that's probably a note that you've received, whether it's been feedback from friends or paid feedback, or notes from reps or producers or executives. If you're new to this, trust me, that note is coming. I've certainly received it before many times over. My name's Nathan Graham Davis, and I'm a Hollywood screenwriter living in Massachusetts. Recently, I was perusing one of the internet's darkest corners, otherwise known as Screenwriting. Okay, there's actually plenty of good content there, and it's pretty well moderated. There just happen to be 1.7 million members and a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about, which means you do need to do a lot of filtering to get to the stuff that's worthwhile. But anyway, someone there posted about how they got a 7 on the blacklist, which is actually a pretty respectable score, but they were frustrated about the reader's primary note, which was about the weakness of the stakes. The writer found that note to be boring, and you know what? I totally get that. Here's the thing. When somebody who knows what they're talking about, which believe it or not does actually include most blacklist readers, when they give that note about stakes, they're usually, unfortunately, coming from the right place, at least in the sense that they've identified what's missing. Basically, they don't care enough about the protagonist's goal to be moved by it. I got a very similar note from my friend Jason Gruich last year when he read one of the specs that I was working on.
I believe what I said was, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And although Jason didn't miss this because he's a beast of a writer, what often gets missed is this. The stakes don't necessarily need to be raised. I mean, they might need to be. Your story might be better served by putting the city or the country or the entire world in peril. That is possible. But it might also just make things feel more contrived and convoluted. Often, what actually needs to happen is that the audience simply needs to care. How do you make that happen? With 3 easy steps. First, you need to get the audience on board with your protagonist. You do this by making them likable, or at the very least, fascinating and authentic. We must empathize with this person. A Save the Cat moment where the protagonist does something nice for another person or a, cat is a really great start. But often it's going to take a few intentional beats throughout the first few pages to establish that empathy. So study the scripts of a few favorite movies in your genre and just see how they accomplish this. For the second step, I'm going to assume that you'll already have a clearly defined goal for your protagonist that is going to carry them through the second act. If you don't, there is a very good chance that that's your problem. Assuming you do have that goal, all you need to do now is show us why that goal means everything to your protagonist. If we love or at least empathize with them, and you show us something that is vitally important to them, guess what? Now we also care about it. You have successfully suckered us in. Everything we've talked about so far is first act stuff. By retooling the first 10 to 15 pages to build empathy for your protagonist and also set up why their goal means the world to them, your entire movie will work better because now we're invested. We want your protagonist to win. The third and final step is one that could take a lot of work, but potentially it could take very little. Your job now is to go through the second act and ask yourself if, now that it's clear how much this goal matters to your protagonist, are they taking active and bold enough steps to achieve it? Hold yourself accountable here. If you're getting that note about stakes, there is probably something that you can do to make your protagonist more proactive and bold, or both, even if it's just in a couple places. And when you do that, it's like a magic trick, because it makes it even more clear that this character, who we now love, cares desperately about doing this thing. And we become more and more invested and sit closer to the edge of our seats as you propel us into the third act. Do that, deliver a great ending, and guess what? It might just be you who wins.
Monsieur Pond wins. For you. Thank you very much.